called you and that lets you save. Who cares?
You can get through anything if you put your mind to it, and no one out there is living that perfect life. It might look like a perfect life looking in, but everybody's dealing with trials and struggles. So when you go through your trials and struggles, you're no different than anybody else who's successful. They just continued to their goal and actually achieved it without quitting.
Welcome to Exploring Mind and Body with Drew Tadia. Drew is an expert in nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, and more. And he wants to help you live a healthier, longer, and more active life. Now here's your host, Drew Tadia.
Welcome to another edition of nationally syndicated Exploring Mind and Body. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in and being a part of our True Form Life community. We're coming at you with a brand new show. We appreciate whether you're listening on terrestrial radio across the country or as a podcast around the world. We certainly wouldn't be here without you. So stick around. We got all that coming up.
This is Exploring Mind and Body. Naturally improve your lifestyle one show at a time with your host, Drew Tadia.
All right, welcome to another edition of nationally syndicated Exploring Mind and Body. Super excited to have another fantastic interview. Welcome to the show, Nelson.
Hey, thanks for having me, Drew. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. We're excited to. I love to hear stories. I love to hear different people's journeys on whatever topic whatever we're talking about that day. But I'd love to give our audience a chance to resonate with you a little bit. Why don't you take a moment to talk to them? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You know, I've got quite the origin story. I like to start with that. You know, my mom became pregnant with me when she was 15 years old. And when she was pregnant with me, her father, who was the local trash collector in a small town, drove into the town square. There he spotted two police officers. He stuck a gun out the window and opened fire on those police officers, killing one and wounding another. And my grandfather was eventually captured and brought to stand trial where he was facing the death penalty. And during my grandfather's murder trial, my mom got up and testified that the reason that her father had shot and killed that police officer was that that police officer had raped her, and she was now pregnant with his baby, who was me. And that's kind of where my life started. You know, it didn't get much easier after that. You know, I'm the son of a 15-year-old mother. She ended up meeting and marrying a man who was very abusive and alcoholic, and dealing with that, you know, all the stuff that kind of went along with that and what my grandfather had done and what my mom had testified to.
Wow, that's certainly a different start to the show.
Yeah.
What is that like? I mean, I'm sure you've said it a number of times, but what is it like to experience that? Like you obviously are a human being. Like, how does that feel like as you're growing up with that weight on your shoulders?
Yeah, I mean, it was not a great childhood, and you know, everything, you know, associated with that. You know, if you've ever been in a small town, you know, everybody is up in your business and they know everything about you. So couple that with kind of my circumstances and then dealing with my stepfather. You know, my mom ended up having 4 more children with my stepfather. And because of their lifestyle, you know, a lot of the basic needs for my siblings fell upon me, and, you know, diaper changing, bottle feeding, and having to deal with that. And then one day, you know, my stepfather was walking home drunk from a bar, and somebody else was driving home drunk from that bar, and they ended up hitting and killing my stepfather. And, you know, as hard as my mom's life has been to that point, you know, now she has 5 children, you know, all young. And, you know, my mom's dropped out of school in the 8th grade. She has no education. And, you know, losing my stepfather, as bad as he was, you know, pretty much left her without any hope. And then and whenever that happened, she ended up attempting suicide. And after that, my family ended up getting split up. And then that's when I went to go live with my grandmother, who was the wife of the man who shot and killed the police officer. And that took me up to about 11 or 12 years old.
Wow. Sound like you deal with a whole lot before you were 12 years old.
Yeah, it was an interesting life. I mean, I think a blessing in disguise was that, you know, I kind of figured that's the way life was, and that's how everybody's life was. And I just kind of chalked it up to, normal ops. And eventually, I ended up, being exposed to some contrast in my life. I got to see some other families that, didn't necessarily, the fathers didn't come home drunk. They didn't abuse their wives and their children. And so I got to see that and started to kind of realize that I wanted something different for my life. And one day, a counselor came from the local university and was talking about all the things that you needed to do to get into college. And that's when kind of all those, the voices in my head started going off. Man, if you could just get a college degree, the rest of your life would be perfect. And that was kind of my mindset then. And you know what happens whenever you start to tell yourself you want to do something that's hard or difficult or something that's going to get you out of your comfort zone, that voice starts screaming at you all the reasons you shouldn't even attempt it. And, I remember thinking to myself, at this time I was in special ed. I couldn't read, couldn't write, couldn't spell. I had dyslexia. I had failed the 4th grade because of the lifestyle we were living. Of my mom's family, of those 15 children she came from, only 2 had ever graduated high school. None had ever gone to college. And so all those voices in the back of my head are saying, you'll be lucky to graduate high school, let alone college. But, I had no real other options. So I started to kind of work towards it. And 12 years after setting that goal, 4 different universities, 4 years in the Air Force, I finally became that first person to graduate from college in my family.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
So there is light at the end of the tunnel, which is why you're sitting here with me. Before we get into that, I'd like to know, how's your mom doing now?
You know what? It couldn't be any more different. After my stepfather my first stepfather was killed, a few years after that, she met another man who couldn't have been any more opposite. They've been married for over 35 years. He treats her like the queen that she is and would never dream of hitting her. And, she's just a totally different person now than she was, when we were kids. And, she's my biggest fan and she's a great grandma. And it's just, it's a miracle on how her life turned around as well.
That's awesome. And then you're the officer and your grandfather?
So in my book, The Unlucky Sperm Club, I get into that, but there are a lot of twists and turns in that story. In fact, some twists and turns recently after the book came out. So I'd like to kind of leave that to the imagination until you read the book, because it's all detailed in there, and the twists and turns are kind of part of the story.
Sure. Sounds good. Okay, so moving on, what do you think the difference between you that made some lifestyle changes and then other people that probably go down a different path with an upbringing like that?
You know what? I when I was growing up, I had kind of that victim mentality, and the subtitle in my book is the Unlucky Sperm Club. You are not a victim of your circumstances, but a product of your choices. And I think I realized that eventually is that, I was 100% responsible for my success. I couldn't blame it on anybody or any situation or circumstances. If I wanted to have success in my life, I was going to have to, take action and be responsible for it, and then just start making those choices. But it wasn't easy. I mean, those circumstances I just told you about on my birth, when I joined the Air Force and moved away, I never moved back to that small town because of all of the, pain that was associated back there and what I represented. And I never told that story to anybody except for my wife, who I told before I married her. I figured she had the right to know. But I never told my kids. I never told my friends or my in-laws until I started down this journey of my new business, and, I reflected upon, why did I live this type of life? And I thought about those, events, and they weakened me. But then I thought, you know what? I lived this life so that I could inspire others and motivate others to know that you can make it out of tough situations. And as soon as I started to kind of have that mindset with it, those events started to give me energy and started to motivate me. And, the same exact events, the only difference was I started to give them a different meaning. And I think that's a huge philosophy in life is, we get to give meaning to everything that happens to us in our lives. And if we get to give that meaning, why on earth would we give anything a bad meaning? I know there are some tough situations out there, and you'd have to get super creative to find something good in it. But I totally believe that you can find something good in every situation you're in.
Yes, I love that. One of my favorite books, Man's Search for Meaning. Have you read it?
Yep.
I thought so. Okay. So for you, what was it like when you initially told that story? Do you remember that turning point where you're like, people are going to start hearing about this?
Yeah, you know what? The story was so painful that I had to tell it in third person, and I had to tell it like I was telling the story. You know, I used my middle name, Lynn, and I told the story like I was telling a story about Lynn because I couldn't get through it. And, that was a few years ago, and I've gotten used to telling the story, and I see how much that story inspires and motivates, and now I can tell it as my own story. But yeah, at first, it was so painful I had to tell it in third person.
I read another book and I can't think of it now, but it was astounding how the author talks about how many professional athletes, executives, entrepreneurs, speakers, they consider them like, he used Beyonce as a good one because she actually used a different name.
Alter ego.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Alter ego. You read that one?
Yeah, and we actually use an alter ego in our program, IGotSmarter. I mean, great philosophy.
Yeah, I love that. So did you get that from the book, or did that just come naturally?
No, we were using it before then, and the book definitely put some different spins on it. And yeah, he uses Beyonce and Tom Brady and all those guys, but it's so true, and it's such a great tool when you're trying to become the best version of yourself, and that's what we do in IGotSmarter.
Okay, so tell me, what's the philosophy that you teach others to help transform and move towards success in their life?
Well, I mean, we've got like 15 different philosophies in the IGotSmarter program, and they kind of, that the one I just went over and I think is one of the most important is that things only have the meaning that you're willing to give them. I mean, I also talked a little bit about taking 100% responsibility for your own success. Your past is not your future. I think so many people kind of they live in their past and they think that that's kind of the way that their life's going to be. And that's not the case. And, we dream big dreams. Writing a book for me was a huge dream. I really cannot spell, no matter how hard I try. There is something that's not wired properly in my brain for spelling. And the fact that I was able to write a book and get it out there was a huge dream for me. But it's possible. And, that's what we want to convey to people and you just do a little bit each day. And that's what our program, IGotSmarter, does as well, is it breaks these huge, ambitious goals down into little bite-sized pieces that we can all wrap our minds around. We call them a 4-week sprint. So we work on our goals in 4-week sprints, and we can really know where we need to be at the end of a month. And we break that down even further into weekly milestones. So there's all those tricks and philosophies that I've used over the last 25 years to come from where I was to where I am now.
Tim, why did you decide to go into... Tell me where you went in the military.
I went into the Air Force. So I got into college because I played football. I didn't have great grades, but because I played football, there was one school that was willing to take a chance on me. But soon after, my first year at college, I owed $3,500 at the end of the first year. And I'm living with my grandma at this time, and my grandma makes $4,800 a year on Social Security. So there is no way I'm ever going to be able to afford to go back. And just like any other dream or goal, there's all these hurdles that pop up, and you have a choice to make. And, I didn't want my dream to end. I wanted to become that first person to graduate from college. And my buddy was going into the Air Force, and he talked about the GI Bill and them giving you money to go to school. And I met with them, and, that checked a lot of boxes for me, the Air Force. One, it showed me how I was going to be able to afford school. But two, it got me out of this small town where, I represented so much and I had so much baggage. So once I got out of that small town, man, it was liberating. For the first time, my last name didn't mean anything. And I really felt like I could be anybody that I wanted to be.
Can you give us a few maybe stories or perspective? What was that like when you were actually in the Air Force?
Yeah. So, I mean, the Air Force, it gave me a lot of discipline. It gave me a lot of values that I didn't have at my home. I definitely understood that you had to do what you were told to do or what you said you were going to do. So that responsibility was really not there very much as a child. So it taught me that. And then it gave me that contrast again. I was able to go over to Saudi Arabia and Turkey, and, I spent time over there and saw these other cultures, and, I saw how blessed we were to live, in the United States, and all the blessings that we had. And, that victim mindset goes away really quickly whenever you see somebody else that is living drastically in worse circumstances than you are. It's hard to be a victim when you see that.
So tell me about your book. One of the things that you say was a big accomplishment for you is writing your book. What is the message, or what do you want to get out of sharing that with the world?
Yeah, so it's called The Unlucky Sperm Club. You're not a victim of your circumstances, but a product of your choices. And it is, it's the story, it's kind of a memoir / self-help book. And, I've owned more than 10 businesses, and it goes into kind of some of my businesses during the last Great Recession. 2008 through 11, and the struggles that I was going through there. I also went through some struggles in my marriage, and I really just pull back the curtain on my life to show people that, people who see people who have, gained some success, they either think that it happened overnight, or they think they were always successful, or it was easy. And that's almost never the case. There's always a struggle. There's always a lot of work. There's always a lot of heartache. And in my book, I kind of talk about that through, business, through relationships as a parent, and then, coming up through that town in my youth, dealing with my stepfather and the abuse there, and just really showing people that you can get through anything if you put your mind to it. And no one out there is living that perfect life. It might look like a perfect life looking in, but everybody's dealing with trials and struggles. So when you go through your trials and struggles, you're no different than anybody else who's successful. They just continued to their goal and actually achieved it without quitting.
Do you have do you have a favorite business out of any of those 10? That's a lot of businesses.
Yeah, you know what? And fortunately, I've been able to, I built a chain of children's daycares in Las Vegas. I also have built one of the largest privately owned pet resorts in the country. And I was able to exit both of those businesses. I was in commercial real estate for 20 years. I became the top salesman worldwide for a top 5 commercial real estate firm in the retail division. So I've had a lot of success, but my favorite business, I've been able to exit those, and you get to that point in your life where what would you do if money and time didn't matter? And that's when I decided to start IGotSmarter, which is a goal fulfillment program that helps people finally achieve their life's biggest goals through our program and through our app. And it's really what I feel like I was placed on this earth to do. It's why I feel like I live the life that I have lived, so that I can inspire and motivate other people to know, hey, there is a way out, that you can become, more than you currently are by using goals and personal development.
So what kind of person would be like, oh, I think this is a good fit for me?
You know what? Anybody who's striving to achieve their goals, to become a better version of themselves. Goals can be used in every area of our lives, health, wealth, business, lifestyle, spiritual, any part of your life that you want to improve. Once you understand how to write a proper goal, how to break that goal down into bite-sized pieces, once you learn all that stuff, which we teach you in IGotSmarter, then you realize you can drastically improve any area of your life or multiple areas of your life by using goals and changing your mindset and learning philosophies and strategies. And that's what we build into IGotSmarter, is to help those people who, whether you've failed at every New Year's resolution you've ever set by January 15th, or even if you feel like you're pretty good at goals and you're able to accomplish most of them, this program will take your goal achievement to the next level no matter where you're at.
Why do you think people are reluctant? I would say afraid. Maybe reluctant is a better word to set goals.
Because they haven't had great success, and no one likes to fail. And, I think, my wife is like that. I talk goals so much. So when I say goals, she kind of goes in the fetal position in a corner and starts sucking her thumb. She's heard it so much. And she hasn't been a great goal person because I think she's failed a lot. But that's what this program does, is it shows you how to be successful. It gives you, there's so many things, like if you fail at something, if you take a step back, you can see the reasons that you failed. The problem is I think people go out and try to set a goal, but they don't know how to write a proper goal. They don't know how to break that goal down. They don't know how to have, the right tools, the right knowledge, and the right support to finally get it through. And, through my 25 years of being obsessed with goals and personal development, I've used almost every program out there. I've read almost every book out there. And I've really used these, strategies and techniques found in IGotSmarter to design a life that I couldn't have even imagined. And I've kind of patched up all the holes where I've failed at my goal achievement. And now, you pretty much have to, the only way you can really fail is if you quit. And we've pretty much made it impossible for you to quit. So you're going to reach your goals. The only way you ever fail at a goal is if you quit. And we help you not do that.
Did your wife do your program?
She does do my program. She's finally been converted, and it was a different New Year's, when she started using the program, because every New Year's is my favorite day. I used to set annual goals, and I'd spend literally 5 or 6 hours New Year's Day reviewing last year and setting goals for the future year and doing all that. And now my wife, is using the program. And our program, one of the key things, and I think biggest struggles for people, is they set annual goals. And we've all just been through a year that none of us could have anticipated. And I guarantee you, most of us did not achieve our goals because, March and April hit and we threw our hands up because the world went crazy. And that's what happens, on a lesser scale almost every year. We set these great goals in January, and then come February or March or whatever, life changes. And then all of a sudden we throw our hands up, and then we just wait for that artificial date again, January 1st, to start over. And one of our philosophies in IGotSmarter is time is our greatest resource. I mean, there's nothing that you can do to ever get a second or a minute back. And so we never want to waste that time. So at IGotSmarter, like I said, we break our goals down into 4-week sprints. And you pretty much know, where you're going to be in a month, and you can really work towards achieving that goal. Your mind can wrap around it. And then once you achieve that 4-week sprint, then you go on to the next 4-week sprint and the next 4-week sprint. And you're not waiting for this artificial, a year out to where you have no urgency, life changes, all that. So there's all these things that we've put in this program that will help people achieve those goals.
So what is the program? Is it an online thing? Are you working with a coach or a group? What does that look like?
Yeah, you know what? With COVID, we have a program that's called IGotSmarter, which had people working with a goal guide and meeting in person in a group. And because of COVID, we had to kind of tap the brakes on that and redesign the program into IGotSmarter, which is the acronym found in 6 Months to Success. And we made it all virtual, and we put it onto an app, and we allow people through the app to invite what we call a success partner to work with them through the app. So, Drew, if you and I were partners, as I do my morning and evening ritual, you see when I do mine and in real time, and you can say, hey, Nelson, great job getting that done. And we're working on our own individual goals, but we're in the app, and we see when people are, we see when our partner is doing their goal to-dos and their morning ritual, and we can encourage. Or Drew, maybe you didn't do your morning ritual this morning, and at 11 o'clock, I get an alert, your partner hasn't done their morning ritual. I can kind of send you a text through the app saying, hey, Drew, how you doing, man? Let's get that morning ritual done. Let's get that day planned. Let's stay at it, and really giving that encouragement. And we call that a success partner, because accountability partners kind of get that, that bad rap, because you're not accountable to me on your goals. You're only accountable to yourself. And I'm here to support you and encourage you. And you're here to support and encourage me. But we have our own goals. And the only people that we are accountable to is ourselves. And that's what that success partner does, is help you stay accountable to do the things that you said you were going to do for yourself.
Do you have a favorite chapter in your book?
Yeah, I do. Let's see, which one?
Always a tough question. For
You know
authors.
what? It's the life lessons of my Uncle Bub, who just kind of gave some life lessons in there, and I kind of talk about he was very blunt, and one of the times I was helping him, he owned a junkyard, and he actually took over the garbage route after my grandfather went to prison. But I was helping him chop off some catalytic converters at his junkyard, and that's the piece on the exhaust pipe that's all the way underneath the car. And he was lifting those cars up with a forklift, and I'd get under there with a hacksaw and chop them off, because you could sell those for a lot of money. And after about the fourth or fifth one, he lifted up a car and it fell off. And before I got under there, of course, but then it kind of struck me like, holy crap, these cars could actually fall. And I asked him, I'm like, what if that car fell on me? And he kind of answered me. He's like, what if your aunt had balls? And I'm like, what? And he's like, what if your aunt had balls? And I'm like, I don't know. And what if your aunt had balls? She'd be your uncle. Now get under there and saw that off. And pretty much what he's telling me is, you could what if yourself to death. And, as absurd as that, what if your aunt had balls is, I think a lot of us do that in our lives, is what if this goes wrong? What if that happens? What if, and, in my book, I kind of spin that a different way. And, what if I wasn't scared to do this? What if I wasn't upset at my wife? What if, and I spin that in a different way. And I just think, some of those life lessons that he taught me resonate and, have really helped me in my life spin the script, so to speak. And now I'm not asking what if goes wrong. I'm asking what if all of this goes right, and what are going to be the benefits to me.
I love that. This goes right. Tell me your favorite book that's not your own.
The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
Nice. Okay. Before we wrap things up, is there anything that I missed that you wanted to cover?
No, I mean, I think we're in a time where so many people feel like they just got past, a horrible year, and they're looking to make up for lost time. And, what my suggestion to them would be is do it now. I mean, if you felt some inspiration, you felt some motivation, do it. Don't wait. And, the only place we can ever start is where we're at. Don't wait for all the traffic lights to turn green before you start on your journey to fulfill your goals. Start where you're at and start now.
The only thing left now is to let us know where we can get your book, where we can sign up for your program. Let us know.
Yeah, you can go to NelsonTressler.com and everything is there. You can find the app there. You can find the book there. The book is available everywhere books are sold, but probably Amazon is the easiest. It's also on Audible, so you can listen to it. That's how I listen to my books. And then the app is on all the app stores. It's on Apple and Android. It's called IGotSmarter, and the book is called The Unlucky Sperm Club. You are not a victim of your circumstances, but a product of your choices.
You come up with that name yourself?
I did. There's a little spin in it. And, if you've ever heard of the Lucky Sperm Club, people, who have been born into privilege and have every right to succeed because of where they were born. I kind of took a spin on that. And I feel like, if you're born in tough circumstances, if you use that properly, that gives you every opportunity to succeed because of where you were born and the fuel that it gives you to really take control of your life and turn it around.
Awesome, Nelson. That was a fantastic interview. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. Thanks, Drew. Thanks for having me on.
All right, that's going to wrap things up for this edition of Exploring Mind and Body. Once again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in and being a part of our True Form Life community. You can always find us on Facebook.com/TrueFormLife. We post up there a couple times a day on our story. We're always trying to bring you more content around living a healthy lifestyle, whether that be nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, and more. We also have free challenges that we do at least once a month. So if you follow us along there, you'll be able to join maybe a plank challenge or a squat challenge, Tabata challenge, challenge, whatever it may be. We'd love to have you join us. We're also on Instagram.com/DrewTadia. Again, we're posting up there a couple times a day along with our story, all dedicated to keeping you fit and healthy and on track. Our main website is trueformlife.com. If you want to check out some of our products, some of our services, or if you just want some great content from videos to blog posts and recipes and more, we got all that at trueformlife.com. Once again, thank you so much for being here. That's it. That's all I got. I'm out of here. As always, I'm your host, Drew Tadia, in health and fitness for a better world. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Exploring Mind and Body with Trueform Life's Drew Tadia, fitness expert. To find out more about the show, Drew Tadia, or to listen to past shows, visit exploringmindandbody.com.